Hello, book friends, and welcome back, or just welcome if you are new here. My name is Lou, and this is Literaturely Lou, where we talk about fantasy and sci fi books. I'm going to get tired of saying that. I need to create one of those intro videos like the big YouTubers have, and I keep saying that I'm going to do that, and clearly I haven't done it yet. So for now, I guess I'm just going to keep repeating that one line. So I am very excited about today's video because this is a long awaited video. I have been planning this for about a month now. We're reviewing a book today that I think I read about a month ago at this point, and I have just been gathering my thoughts because I really want to do this review justice. But before we even talk about the book, we have to talk about the beauty of book hunt. This is finding a book that has not yet been spotlit through social media, gravitating to it on your own without the influence of an outside source. And this is something that I still challenge myself to do because, as someone that reviews books on social media, it's very easy for me to get my book recommendations from social media. Finding books through reviews from creators that have similar tastes to me feels like the books have already been vetted, so to speak. And it kind of takes the guesswork out of, am I going to enjoy this? Am I not? However, I'm also aware that by doing that, I contribute to why so few books circulate in the book space. A lot of gems are going to fall through the cracks if we don't push ourselves to go find books on our own the old fashioned way. It's probably not even the old fashioned way. I think we've always relied on reviews. But I think you get my point. But without further ado, the gem of the day is Cyteen by CJ Cherryh. Yeah. And now, just to contradict everything that I literally just said, I actually did not pick up this book the first time that I saw it. And I did, in fact, try to find some reviews on social media. Because of its size, I mean, it's a big book with tiny text. I was intimidated. However, it was crickets out there. I think I found one single video, and it was about CJ Cherryh's collection of books. It wasn't really about Cyteen specifically. I did then go on to Goodreads. I did see some reviews there. And there are some ideas presented in this book that I'm kind of playing with in my own novel. And I really wanted to see how CJ Cherryh tackled those ideas. So that was another motivator. So, of course, the next time that I was in Barnes and Noble and I saw the book, I said, let's go for it. And I am so glad that I did. This is a 680-page behemoth of a book with tiny text tightly packed into it. Reading this book really feels like you're reading 1,000 pages. And I'm not complaining because this is probably the best book that I have read so far this year. So the story is set in a city called Regenesis on a planet called Cyteen, and we have a very diverse population here, but not diverse in the way that you might be thinking. Regenesis has a large population of clones, genetically engineered individuals that are called Aussies, and then your natural born citizens that are referred to as CITs or CITs. And because of the types of people that we have in this city, it is governed by a council of scientists. Well, they're not all scientists, but scientists are very prominent in the governing of Regenesis. They essentially control how these citizens are produced and for what function. And what I found really interesting were the CITs because while they were naturally born, they were not made through traditional means. They could have been, still, it wasn't very common that they were, which doesn't make them very different from Aussies or even clones. There is more gene manipulation that happens with Aussies, but aside from that, there's not much difference between these two groups. So with that being said, let's talk about the different species of humans on Regenesis, but not really the CITs, because there's not a lot to unpack there. I think you guys can gather what the citizens were like. Aussies, on the other hand, were bred to serve very specific functions, and they were broken down into tiers. So you had your alpha Aussies, your betas, and your gammas. Some are trained to perform very menial tasks like the cooking, the cleaning, child rearing. I don't know who defines that as menial, but I digress. Nonetheless, your alpha Aussies are bred to be your right hand man. They can manage the rest of the Aussies, they can hold all your secrets, and they can perform your more complicated tasks. Think of them as your private secret service. And these Aussies, all Aussies, are trained using tapes. And what I think was really cool in this book is that you actually get the transcript of the tapes in the book. I thought it was cool. Anyway, these tapes, however, have the ability to control or inflict different emotions like tranquility or happiness, and they can inflict pain. So you can actually see in the book that the response to going under the influence of tapes is not always received really well. I picture that scene in Igor. Hopefully you guys have watched Igor, where he's like taking his monster to get brainwashed, and there's like flashing images that are imprinting onto her mind. That's how I see these tapes. And the thing that I found a bit disturbing was that even though I would not call these alphas mindless drones, they aren't really trained to say no to the person they're assigned to either. So they can be put in really compromising circumstances and they agree to perform whatever tasks they're asked to perform. And you don't know if it's something that they actually want to do. And that kind of made me uncomfy, especially by way of intimacy. I think you're catching my drift. I think you get what I mean. There is a lot of that kind of intermingling that happens in this book, and we can talk about that more a little bit later. However, moving away from the Aussies, let's talk about the clones. Two of our main characters in this book are clones of specials, and specials are minds within the society that we don't want to lose. So their gene sets are preserved and can be copied in the event that these specials expire. And early on in the book, one of the specials is murdered and she is cloned, and that is one of our main characters that we follow throughout the story. And this was an interesting character to follow because her predecessor was not a fan favorite. And in fact, she was quite abusive to the other main clone in the book. So when she is brought again, there's this elephant in the room whenever these two characters are together, and you don't know if this is going to go well or if someone's going to lose it. And that creates this underlying tension that carries throughout to the end. Both characters, however, are really important to the city of Reziun, and one character understands that better than the other because the other is just a child. He has to act accordingly in every situation, and it creates an inner turmoil. Whereas our other clone, Ariane Emery, that is the character that gets cloned at the beginning of the book, everyone walks on eggshells around her, but they bend to her every will while never forming any real connection or relationship to her, and she doesn't learn why for most of her childhood, which is pretty messed up. So this is a coming of age story under the most unique circumstances. It's also part murder mystery with a lot of intrigue and political influence. It's also a really slow paced story, and because of this, you learn a lot about the characters because it's really in those menial moments that you get to see them as people. The world building also benefits from the pacing of the story. Because it's a slow paced story, you also get to see how the different species of humans fit within the world and how they navigate their positions within the world. You read how they are made and how they are brainwashed. And then you have a plot that runs alongside that involving the expansionists and the abolitionists. And these two groups are in debate about what to do with Reziun's resources. Again, Reziun is in control of the production of Aussies and clones, but they have a third resource called Rejuve. And Rejuve, when it is taken, it can extend your lifespan, it can keep you younger for longer. And the expansionists believe that Reziun should share these resources with other cities, whereas the abolitionists believe they should stop production altogether. And they mean stop the production of Aussies, of clones, and Rejuve. And our Ari clone has a lot of say and sway in that debate as well. Not presently, though, because again, she's a kid for most of this book, but her mentors, or caretakers, so to speak, are kind of placeholders for her at the moment, but they can't make any real decisions without her. So it's kind of a waiting game to see if either they can take the control from her or control the situation through her. There is a lot of slow build tension, and some readers are going to find this book chronically oblique and meandering, and that is a fair judgment to have. I have never believed that I was someone that needed instant gratification, but this book challenges that. If you think that you are someone that also likes a slow paced story, this book will challenge you too. The first 100 pages is really where the excitement is. It's where the big events happen. And then the story just comes to a crawl, and you're just plugging away to the finish line. It's what I imagine a marathon would be like because I have never ran a marathon, but there's that countdown and then a whistle, maybe, I don't know, but then everyone gets going and it's really exciting because it's started. But then you're sort of in the middle of it, just trying to keep pace to the end. But hopefully that didn't translate as me saying that I was just waiting for it to end, because truth be told, I wasn't even thinking about how the story was going to end. I was so captivated by every small moment that I don't think I've ever been as present with a story as I was with Cyteen. This book is like chocolate for adults. That's the best way I can describe it. It's meant to be savored. And this might be the perfect season for it too, if you just want to sit on your porch or at the beach with a book that is slow paced, but it's not gentle or soft. It is a chonker though. So I don't know if you want to be toting it around. I would. I did. I am actually, because I'm currently reading book 2 as I'm filming this. I am surprised that this author is not talked about more. CJ Cherryh has written over 80 books, multiple Hugo Award winners. Her books should really be revered alongside Ursula K. Le Guin books or Octavia Butler or the Dune series. She should be mentioned alongside those guys. And don't be surprised if you see more of her books on this channel, because I think I'm definitely having a CJ Cherryh year. As I mentioned before, I've already started book 2, and I've bought book 1 to another series that is set within the same universe as Cyteen. So it's definitely going to be a CJ Cherryh year. And I will leave you with this. This book can be read in volumes. It comes in 3 volumes. This copy is all 3 volumes in one book. If you are on the fence about reading Cyteen, I would recommend reading at least the first 100 pages. If it doesn't hook you within those first 100 pages, there's nothing that's going to happen in the rest of the book that's going to win you over. So you will know right from the beginning if this is for you. Anyway, there are some spoilers that I would like to chat about. So if you do not want to hear any spoilers, then I will leave you here. Please don't forget to do all the things, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you friends in the next one. Happy reading. Okay, and if you are still with me, then you have read Cyteen, and I just have something I need to say. The character work in this book is top tier. Because of the pacing of the book, we get a 360-degree view of these characters, and Ari's existence as it compares to Justin's was fascinating to me. Ari's reality as it compares to Justin's gave a very interesting perspective on human behavior because these two are kin, and yet their lives are very different. Justin, being Jordan's clone, I would have expected Jordan to have more of an ego and to treat Justin less like he's his own individual and more like he's a carbon copy of Jordan because that's what he was. But instead, he forms a father son relationship, and I understood that. And I thought that was a very interesting route for CJ Cherry to take. Not to mention Grant, who's an Aussie, but Jordan doesn't treat him the way he treats Paul. Instead, he sees him like a second son, and even Justin accepts him like a brother. Then I felt really bad for Ari because she has all of these familial figures that come and go in her life, but none of them form an actual bond and relationship to her. And they are family by way of title, like she has a mom and she has uncles, and the relationship feels contractual because it is. And I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition that CJ Cherry chose for Ari as opposed to Justin. I thought this book was absolutely amazing, and book 2 is revving up to be just as good. Anyway, that's it from me. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for sticking around.